Here live on The Breakdown, the first All Black squad for 2023. It's time now to go to the Te Awamutu Sports Rugby Club, the home of Ian Foster and his rugby, and hear that first All Black squad for this year.
Tēnā koutou katoa, kei aku nui, kei aku rahi. Tēnā hoki koutou I te kingitanga e whakanui ana te rā whānau o kingi koroki I te paukai o Pōhara. Kia ora tātou. I am delighted to announce that the All Black squad for the 2023 Lippevatan D Rugby Championship Series in alphabetical order is as follows. Bowden Barrett, Blues and Taranaki. Geordie Barrett, Hurricanes and Taranaki. Scott Barrett, Crusaders and Taranaki. Sam Kane, All Blacks captain, Chiefs and Bay of Plenty. Finley Christie, Blues and Tasman. Caleb Clark, Blues and Auckland. Dane Coles, Hurricanes and Wellington. Ethan de Groot, Highlanders and Southland. Braden Enor, Crusaders and Canterbury. Lester Whainga Anuku, Crusaders and Tasman. Samapeni Finau, Chiefs and Waikato. Shannon Frizzell, Highlanders and Tasman. Rico Ioane, Blues and Auckland. Luke Jacobson, Chiefs and Waikato. Will Jordan, Crusaders and Tasman. Nepo Laulala, Blues and Counties Manukau. Anton Leonard Brown, Chiefs and Waikato. Tyrell Lomax, Hurricanes and Tasman. Josh Lord, Chiefs and Taranaki. Damien McKenzie, Chiefs and Waikato. Dallas McLeod, Crusaders and Canterbury. Richie Moonga, Crusaders and Canterbury. Emoni Narawa, Chiefs and Bay of Plenty. Fletcher Newell, Crusaders and Canterbury. Dalton Papali'i, Blues and Counties Manukau. Brodie Retallick, Chiefs and Hawke's Bay. Cameron Roygard, Hurricanes and Counties Manukau. Adi Savia, Hurricanes and Wellington. Aaron Smith, Highlanders and Manawatu. Samisoni Tokiaho, Chiefs and Waikato. Cody Taylor, Crusaders and Canterbury. Mark Telea, Blues and North Harbour. Ofa Tuungafasi, Blues and Northland. Tupō Vai, Chiefs and Taranaki. Samuel Whitelock, Crusaders and Canterbury. Tamaiti Williams, Crusaders and Canterbury. In addition to those 36 named, Sean Stevenson from the Chiefs and North Harbour has been selected as injury cover and will assemble with the team. Congratulations to all those selected, especially the 5 new caps. I'll now pass back to the studio.
Thank you very much, Dame Patsy Reddy there. Congratulations, yes, we reflect that. Congratulations to those 36 men just named in their first All Black squad for 2023. What a moment. And when we look at that squad, Jeff, I'll start with you. What's your initial... Oh, he's doing this with his fingers. What is your initial reaction, thoughts on that squad for the Rugby Championship?
Well, clearly I'm excited for the new players that have been named in the All Blacks for the very first time, but also the fact that Mils, KT, Laura, they have rewarded form. Guys who have stood up in Super Rugby, who are playing outstandingly well. And I think over the last weekend, over the last 2 days, some guys in this list have played their way into an All Black squad, which I'm excited about, which means we might see something not necessarily different in terms of the way they play, but the possibilities going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, firstly, congratulations to those 5 new caps. I think it's a wonderful moment, not just for them, but also for their families as well, hearing their names called out. And for some guys like the Braden Enors that have come back into it after horrific injuries, you know. So, yeah, form has been great. It's a really strong looking side. So I'm really looking forward to sort of the next part of it, and also the Rugby Championship and the I suppose what we sort of dissect in the next few weeks. KT.
Yeah, I think obviously it's exciting because some lives have just changed. You know, for the banner, it's amazing for them, like you spoke about, those young guys. Some guys have gotten some opportunities back in the squad to see how they react, and I suppose a couple of guys might be there under necessity, and then some other guys get opportunities. I mean, come back from injury. But I like the balance of the squad. There's been some brave decisions by these guys we're just about to go to.
Yeah, well, let's cross now back to Ian Foster, who's going to tell us more about his squad.
It's always a tough job picking this team. Every All Black squad has always been required a whole lot of conversations. I'd like to thank Jason and Joe, particularly for their work, but also Scott, Greg and Straws for their contribution as fellow coaches. Like I said, every All Black squad has some great stories to it. It's also tough on some people who miss out, but we're incredibly excited with this group. There's a nice blend of existing players, but also some new players who we feel have really earned their opportunity to be named today. It's a team that we want to go into this rugby championship with a lot of confidence. We think it's vital the championship for this group to really grow its game, to get our game ready, so that when we go to hit France at the World Cup, that we're excited, confident and really set to go into that game one against France. So it's a vital time for us. I'd really like to congratulate Sam Kane for the captaincy. We've got a lot of faith in him, a lot of belief in Sam as a leader, as a player. He's had a couple of disrupted years, but it's fantastic to see him back with a smile on his face and leading and playing to the level that he is. So delighted to have Sam in that space. Also like to say a special congratulations to the 5 new caps, to Mighty, Samapeni, Cameron, Dallas and Amoni. It's a very special time for them, for their families, and I'm sure there's people around them that will be incredibly proud of tonight and what they've achieved as people. So well done, you 5. And also a mention to Sean, who's also been named as a replacement for Mark Talia, who's got an injury that'll keep him out for 2 or 3 weeks. And so we're bringing Sean in, and again, thoroughly deserved, and he should be proud of his achievement. Finally, just a big thanks to TMU Sports for having us. It's pretty special for an All Black team to get out into the community, to grassroots, and this is where we want to connect as a team. We know where we're from, and we want to represent our country right across the breadth. And as we go forward into the Rugby Championship and the World Cup, we want to feel that support of the community behind us. So big appreciation to this club. Thank you.
I imagine some feelings of relief there to finally have that team out there announced the 1st of 2023. It's a tough decision. Then you have to sit down. You've got all those talented rugby players you've got to go through. And he mentioned the families who will have supported those individual players so well throughout. So thinking of all of you at home, especially for those 5 new players, there'll be, well, I imagine a few tears, but that's just me. I'm a bit of a cry. So Mils, when we look at that team, one name sticks out for me for multiple reasons, but the Canterbury fan in me, Dallas McLeod. What do you feel about his inclusion in this side?
Oh, I think if you look at the balance in terms of what they've sort of got in the midfield, it's interesting he's been named on the midfield. He's a very versatile player, strong, he's got plenty of speed, amongst him. This is a hotly contested, I suppose, division, Jeff, in terms of the names and the style of player that you sort of want. What we've sort of seen with Dallas McLeod, throughout these last few years, particularly this year as well, is he's strong, he's agile, he's got plenty of speed, but also he stays in the fight. That's what I've loved about him as well. He's got plenty of good skills as well.
He's physical, he's accurate. Look, he's playing in a really well-organised team. He understands his role. Look, this was a standout performance against the Blues at Eden Park, KT, where he showed this full skill set, and he's been forced to play on the wing through a number of challenges they've had injury-wise, and then they lose a David Havili. Look, there's no doubt that he's probably the guy at the moment who's sitting still on the outside of that group, but for him to get an opportunity to go and shine, they've clearly looked at some of the things he does. I love it. It's great. I mean, and this is, by definition, a genuine bolter, because none of us can honestly say we had him in the conversation right now.
I might have.
You the starting 15 for the Crusaders.
But I like it. I love it.
Yeah, I know. I also reckon he doesn't make many mistakes, and we just saw a couple of instances there. His line runnings was really, really good. So as a first 5, when you have a second 5 that can do that, it changes your game, it changes the shape of your attack, and I think that's another thing you spoke about, is heavy carries is something that I think has really got him over the line as well.
So we look at that 36-man strong squad, and it is a strong squad. When you look at it, is this a winning team, Jeff?
Of course it is. It's the All Blacks.
Yep.
No, but what I look at is the fact that now they've got some options and have other players step up. When you think about that new blood at Tamaiti Williams, the fact he can play both sides of the scrum, they're looking for some new blood up front. They got that. I'm interested in some guys, Mils, as well, that have been named that are clearly haven't played any rugby. Fletcher Newell's one of those. Sam Whitelock is under an injury cloud, but that may be a little bit more positive than we'd previously heard. So you start throwing in that in the conversation, Sammy Penny Finau, it gives them options. I love it. I look at this group. The big thing is now is who's the first 23? And let's get to that. And there's a lot of things to go under the bridge. But I think some guys, for me, I say it once again, some guys on Friday and Saturday confirmed they needed to be written in pen. Not in pencil, in pen. I think it's impressive.
Yeah, 100%. I like the balance of it because what we sort of got last year in terms, particularly when you look at the forward pack, you know, up front with the Groot and Lomax, they really stood out. Really young blood. You know, there's a sort of a mix of that, but a lot of experience amongst the squads. It's a really nice-looking, strong squad. But that's it. The 23, for me, you know, who plays, who gets an opportunity, because it's still a big squad.
It is a very big squad. We're going to head back now to the man himself, Ian Foster, who is with Kirsty.
Thanks very much. Yes, Ian Foster, congratulations to get that one out there, the first squad of the year. You had a live audience as well who were umming and ahhing and oohing. What excites you most about this squad?
I love the blend. I think, you know, we've got a lot of sort of experienced players who know what it is to go to get ready for a World Cup, get ready for Test matches. We've got a group that's been through some adversity and built a lot of character last year, and we've got a really nice blend of some young players who I think have played their way in through this year's Super Rugby campaign. And, you know, and they bring a different ingredient into the group. They bring a bit of excitement, a bit of a challenge, and the Rugby Championship's going to be vital for us to see where they're at and to see how that looks when we narrow it down to 33.
Let's touch on some of those exciting youngsters. A lot of them have been talked about all year, but Dallas McLeod was someone that came out of the blue. What did you see in Dallas?
Yeah, well, we see Dallas primarily being a midfielder, and you know, I think probably 12 would be, and it's an area that, you know, with Davey and Quinn on the injured list, it's a chance for us to have a look at him there. But his versatility, I thought he's played really well on the wing. It's probably been a selection by necessity down there, but it's you know, he's fast, he's strong, he's courageous under the ball. He's a great chaser of the ball, and I guess his versatility is going to be critical for us. So, you know, we've got a chance in a slightly bigger squad to bring him in and see where it goes.
Sean Stevenson has been named as an injury replacement right now for Mark Talia. A lot of people will be asking at home, what does he have to do to make it into your Rugby World Cup 33? What is it more that you want to see?
Yeah, well, he'll find that out when he comes in. You know, we've got pretty specific job, you know, requirements, and, you know, on both sides of the ball. He's certainly in the attack side. He's proven to be outstanding, and he should be very proud of his year. And we've seen a massive improvement in I guess, the defensive, the structural stuff, and also the tackle and some of the contact work. But we still want to, I guess, see a little bit more in that space. But the fact that he's made to come in and particularly probably be with us maybe for those first two tests is a great opportunity for us to get a good read of that.
We can't imagine the conversations that you had with all the players that you had to pick from. So some people would have been in pencil, some would have been in pen. Did the team or the squad change at all over the weekend after those two semi-finals?
Yes, it did. One went in and one went out. I'll leave the rest to you. But, you know, these are the games that you want people to play well. And I guess for some people, you know, they were probably well cemented in. But for others, these are the games that you really want to see how people front up in those big moments. And I think, you know, when you look at the All Black 15 team yet to come, will be announced shortly, that's also got some players that have really put their hand up.
Some of the unlucky ones are probably Brad Weber, Akira Ioane, Hoskins Sotutu hasn't made the New Zealand 15. How tough were the conversations to those guys who have been in the environment before?
Yeah, look, they're tough, and there's still a couple that I've left texts and messages and haven't heard back from, which hurts a bit. But look, they're never nice, and, you know, good men playing hard. They've got a dream, and I guess this is a temporary setback in some ways. But the challenge is that history's full of players who have missed out on a squad and yet come back strong and force their way into a World Cup, and be it in the initial squad or as a replacement. So the door's very much open.
Now tell us about a couple of those injuries. Mark Talair, how bad is he? And Sam Whitelock, do you expect him to play in the final this weekend?
Well, we're waiting to see on Sam Whitelock. We certainly wouldn't expect him to play based on the medical data that we've got with his Achilles. And Mark Talair is very much, we're not totally sure yet, but it looks like it's a knee strain and probably 3 to 4 weeks.
You must be excited. Fozzie, you're back home, your home club, Te Awamutu Sports. This is a Rugby World Cup year and you've just given us the first taster into what we've got to look forward to.
Oh, incredibly, you know, and I think, you know, where we finished last year and, you know, it was a heck of a year, wasn't it? But, you know, we stayed strong, we grew. We're probably a team that a lot of people are writing off a little bit, which is, you know, not a usual space for us. But it's we're incredibly excited. We need to play a fast, skillful game. We want to go to a World Cup ready to do that. But I love the like I said, the combinations we've got. We've got some great youth up front. We're going to bring a lot of power and energy to our forward game and a lot of speed and skill to the back game, and that's our game.
Well, we commend you on your brave and exciting selections. Now, you're not expecting this. I'm sure you'll want to have a beer with a couple of your mates, but this man right here, Mark McLeod, the president of the Te Awamutu Sports Club, is going to present you with a very special jersey recognising 100 games for this rugby club. So there you go.
Oh, very good. That is a surprise. Thank you very much, mate.
Congratulations, Ian, and good luck is what would I like to say, and thanks very much for bringing this to Te Awamutu Sports. It's fantastic, it really is. So, but good luck for your journey, and we all wish you extremely well. But this is just a celebration.
Thanks so much, Mark, and congratulations to Ian Foster there.
Thanks very much.
Lovely moment there. I really genuinely don't think he was expecting that. So awesome to receive that jersey. And that you heard from the coach there. There's a bit to unpack from that interview there with Kirsty. I want to start straight off the bat. After the weekend of semi-finals Super Rugby, well, 1 in, 1 out. Who do you think it was? He let us suggest. Who do you think it was, Mils? I'll start. Do you like how I started with you?
Jeff, who do you reckon it was?
Okay, well, straight to Jeff. Okay.
Look, I think one of the areas in particular was the competition around the number 8 position. And look, Hoskins Tutu has been one of the players who's been their invitement for a couple of years. He didn't have a great night down in Christchurch, and a couple of other guys have stood up in that position. So when I think about Hoskins and where he's sitting right now, you know, I think he'll be bitterly disappointed. I hope he wasn't one of the players that didn't text the coach back, because I'd certainly think that's an area you'd be concerned of if you're a coach. Look, there's a lot of positive things about his game. He's a guy now that's going to have to find a way to fight his way back into the conversation. We'll hear and talk about the All Blacks 15. He's not a part of that either. So something's up there. Yeah. That's a surprise. But Semi Penifenau was the player I think was in competition for that spot, and ultimately I think that's where they've gone.
KT, what do you think? Do you agree with that?
Yeah, totally. Totally, I do. You know, and when the squad come out and we're listening for that, that's one thing that's really stood out for me. You know, you sort of talk about Semi Penifenau. There was whispers about him during the season, but I think also Luke Jacobson, the heat that he has put on at number 8 in particular is undeniable. You know, so the way he's gone in conjunction with Hoskins' dip in form, I think might be there or thereabouts. You know,
Sami Penny brings something different. So he brings youth and enthusiasm. So you can, like, you know, when you're sitting there and you go, okay, well, you bring out there's no real sort of risk. He's had a really good season. When you're looking at big time moments, and we compared, you know, Sotutu or Jacobson, for instance, you look at big games, you know, big game on Friday night, big game on Saturday, and you sort of start comparing sort of how they sort of react to that. You know, the game in Hamilton, you know, to me, it's a hard-fought matchup. You've got to stay in. You've got to stay within discipline to stay within the game plan, because anything can kind of happen. And I suppose that's probably what Fozzie's talking about. That's the level down now from Test match footy. You know, in terms of the pressure, in terms of decision making, not getting too loose, making really good decisions, and also the mental side of it. You know, making sure that you're turning up. And I guess, you know, when you're looking at these two guys and comparing that, you know, Luke Jacobson can cover all the positions as well, where Hoskins is probably an out-and-out 8. And that's probably the balance in terms of, you know, why he possibly, you know, got ahead of them.
I think also, you heard Fozzie say he wants his forwards to be tough. I'm not saying Hoskins isn't tough, but like to your point, Sami Penifenau, the way he carries the ball into contact is tough. And I think he's been a big part of why the Chiefs have got up the last couple of weekends against some pretty tough opposition in the Australians.
He used the word he wants power and energy. And is this a side that's going to bring that to Fozzie's team, do you think?
Well, they have to be relentless. And I think they'll get that with this group. And they're going to have to get that if you're going to compete with the likes of France and Ireland and South Africa, because those are the immediate threats, because that's the challenge we have in front of us straight away. So, of course, we've got Australia to compete with in the Bledisloe Cup, and you never take that for granted. And there's a challenge with Argentina. It's all right there. But I love this is the fact that they recognise exactly what it is they need, and they've gone out and they've selected that. And that's why I think Luke Jacobson, look, I think he's in direct competition with Ethan Blackadder. Ethan Blackadder lasted 5 minutes, unfortunately. He's going to be out for a little bit longer. To me, this guy has earned the right to get another opportunity in the All Black jersey. I'm impressed with his season so far. Look, he can play all three positions, Mils. I mean, I think you reward teams for their endeavour, the way that they play. This is a sort of skill set, you know. I love it, I really do. There's some guys in here who've just earned the right.
Well, fast and skillful is what Fozzie said. That's the game. We've gone right back to our strengths. So when you talk about the French and the Irish and that, and how they've sort of been dominated, dominating world rugby in the last couple of years, that sort of those pictures here showed a little bit of skill, and that's in the heat of the battle, heat of the finals football, when you have to come out your own 22, you sight, you see, you execute in terms of, if you lose that ball or you don't execute, chances are the Brumbies pick up and you're down the other end. And so it's the hard stuff, like you're talking about, being mentally hard, mentally composed, but also disciplined enough to know that, hey, don't get too loose.
We need to remember that there are quite a few on the injury list who, didn't get picked, obviously, because of the injuries. One of those that was injured was Talia, and so Sean Stevenson makes his way into the All Blacks 36 squad sort of through injury. How do you feel about that, KT?
Well, he's got an opportunity, and that's what he's been given. So it's up to Sean Stevenson now, who's worked so hard and shown consistency this year that he's up to the task. He has to prove to these selectors, prove to this All Black team that he has got the goods, in particular spots that Fozzie spoke about on the defensive side of the ball.
The hardest thing from KT Mils is the fact that realistically I think he's an out-and-out fullback at that international level right now. The balance, he can play on the wing. When you've got guys, the likes of a Bowden Barrett, Damien McKenzie, Geordie Barrett, Will Jordan in front of you in the 15 position, I'm just not sure there was enough room to get in the initial 36. And even with the way Fozzie talked about Dallas McLeod, you get the sense it's just to come in and have a look at them. I'm not sure they're going to play in the first game. They're not going to be part of that. But with Sean Stevenson, he's actually got one more week. And that's in a final, right, against the Crusaders. Yeah. And his standing and his stock can rise even more if he goes out and delivers once again. So you're almost getting another look at him again, which is great.
But Fozzie spoke about it. He said one guy this weekend come in because of the way he played. So that's what he has, like you said, that one game, 100%.
And I guess it's a different mentality when you're in your Sean Stevenson now, because you're going into the environment trying to absorb as much as you can out of it. Have a really good attitude, because you just don't know what the coaches are actually looking for. It's more the experience of being in there. They'll look at him this week, can he step up to that? He'll go into the environment. He might not necessarily play, but something could actually happen in terms of, there's could be injuries that come up, and then they've really liked the attitude of what he's sort of, bringing. He could actually pick up a spot that might be a wing. It might not be a fullback position. It might be, hey, well, you go we're going to train this movie. I want you to go out there and practice it. And the more he gets stuff like that, and off the sort of the games, the better the coaches will go, actually, these are the things we weren't quite sure about him. He might actually sneak himself in.
So how closely is Fozzie watching this weekend? Sean Stevenson's obviously got still one game. Fozzie talked about the importance of big moments and watching what players do in those big moments. So how much specifically will they be watching what Sean Stevenson does in that final?
Oh, they'll be watching a lot. It'd be a good chance for him to stay playing. But I think the other thing they'll be watching is hopefully no one gets injured. Touch wood. And another guy that he's just mentioned is Sam Whitelock. He's under a massive injury cloud. What do they kind of do there? But in terms of guys like Sean Stevenson, he'll be watching to make the little wee things that he'll do. Can he get up again for another big moment?
This is a knockout game. Yep. That's what the final of Super Rugby is. And so when all of a sudden you're looking at Lester Whainganuku, you look at Amoni Narawa, all the guys who have just been given their opportunity 2 weeks later in an All Black environment, a week later they'll assemble, they'll watch this game, and I'll tell you what, they'll be taking really close eyes on all of the performers, all the guys they've just named, because all of a sudden the eyes are actually on them and going, oh, you've just been given an opportunity, so what are you going to take in this game? So it's almost to me like a trial for some positions. Wonga, McKenzie, it's going to be all on in so many different positions. I will say this, really stoked for Braden Ennor, because I think he might have, we took one in, one out, I think he might have been a guy who was sitting, but he needed one big performance, and he did it on the weekend against what? The incumbent All Black centre Enrico Ioane. So the conversation, I think, has changed about where Braden Ennor fits right now. Always liked his ability. It was nice to see him deliver on the biggest stage, KT.
Yeah, and the thing is, too, he's had some consistent football for once, He's had a string of games together. He's always had the talent. That's never been in question. you know, but it's always been the injuries that has been something against, stopped his development. So I think this year he's had that consistency, and now he's actually playing some decent football at the right end of the season.
Another hotly contested position is the halfback position. How do we feel about Cam Roygaard? Now,
Here we go.
I'll start with you.
Why are you coming to me? Why are you coming to me?
No, the reason I talk about, I'll give it to you first, because Cam Roygaard, worked on a lot of the Hurricanes games with you this year, and it was a player's name that constantly came up. He took his opportunities, and so much so he's just been named in a 36-man All Black squad.
Well, why was Folau Fakatava picked for the All Blacks? Because he was something different. Cam Roygaard exactly fits that mould. The fact we know that Aaron Smith, Finn Christie and Brad Weber are similar type players. Different in subtle ways, but none of those three play like Cam Roygaard. He does a lot of this. He runs with the ball, Mills. He attacks the line. He's physical. You know, he's a bigger frame. He's certainly got plenty of speed. You know, like ultimately, I look at Cam Roygaard and go, I think this is the right selection. Very hard though on a Brad Weber.
Yeah, has he been hard done by Mills?
I think Brad is a very good player. But what we do know about Brad is what happened last year. He wasn't named in the side. They know what Brad can do. What they're wanting to try and establish is Cam Roygaard, is he that mould that they want in that? And so when you look at there's effectively 5 halfbacks, right? Fakatava and Webby will be in the 15, All Blacks 15. They'll still get an opportunity to play. It's the makeup of that third position, probably even the second. So where does Cam Roygaard play? When does he play? Is it that first test in Argentina where if he comes off the bench, or do they start him to say, well, let's test him out there and see what he can do under test match footy pressure? And they know what the other guys can do. I think you're right. Yeah. What can the halfback bring that's different? That's not just going to have the speed of the pass like Aaron Smith do, snipe around the corners, bring big moments that Fakatava can do to win games. That's what they're kind of looking for, something different.
And I think Fakatava goes and just plays some football with the All Blacks 15. He just needs runs under the belt. And I think all those other halfbacks have been in the All Black environment. Roygaard hasn't, so this is the opportunity that All Blacks want to see him. They have to do it right now to see what he's got, to the point that you're making. And he's got a massive left foot boot, so that's another, I suppose, difference that he has from the other ones.
Oh, it is exciting. First All Black squad of 2023 has been named. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to hear from All Black captain Sam Cane. We'll see you soon.
That's what the All Blacks coaches will be looking for ahead of France this year. To Mighty Williams. They pick up and they score the try. Keeps it in. And this time he says, enough kicking, I'm going to run. Oh, he runs straight into a big shoulder of Sammy Penny, feet out.
Fakatava looks the puck in the inside, and Roygaard goes off on a run. Now, has he got the pace? I reckon he has, Cam Roygaard. And he scores. Roygaard the try. Wow, what a try.
But now McLeod, who's looked really strong in midfield, breaking tackles. McLeod comes down just short.
McKenzie sends it wide, and now it could open up here for Narawa. Chased across, but he's got pace to burn. Oh, that's a great try. Emoni Narawa for the Chiefs. It doesn't get any better than that.
Welcome back to the special edition of The Breakdown, as we have just had the first All Blacks team of 2023 named. 36-man strong squad, and it's a very, very exciting day, especially for those men who have just been named. You'll have a look, if you've just joined us there, at the names here. Jeff, when you were playing, when you first found out, like some of these, 5 new names here on the list, what was that feeling like? Describe it for us.
I was shocked, to be fair, when I got named, because it happened a little bit out of the blue. I'd only just started playing NPC rugby, and it was in 1993, and I was only a young man, so it took me a while for it to sink in. And then we didn't assemble for a few weeks, and then when I got there, Mills, KT, and then when I got in the environment, I was like, wow, I've been watching most of these guys, played the odd game against them, and you're expecting me to go to the other side of the world to go on tour and play against guys that I'd grown up being my heroes. So for these guys, this is the reality of it. For a lot of these guys, they've got a big game in front of them next weekend. So it catches you by surprise, but in some ways, you hear the noise. There was a bit of noise, but you're never quite sure until finally you hear your number called.
Mills, do you remember the moment you got named?
I'll just say quickly, it doesn't help being a Wilson. You start counting, going, hey, what number are they up to? Because Mighty Williams was doing exactly the same thing. Going, what number are we up to? What number are we up to?
When we travelled down to Christchurch for the first semi-final on Friday, his parents had flown down, particularly to be there for the semi-final, but also for the team naming. So for them to be able to be with their son now in this special moment, because you've also got to remember, this is you know, every Kiwi kid's dream to be an All Black, right? To grow up and become an All Black, and when they finally get their name out, he was the last name, wasn't it? Williams.
Well,
yeah.
last name.
Very last name. So it's a special moment, but also, you know, there's this pure emotion, and it's not until you do get into camp that you realise that you are. When the gear comes out and you think, oh, all the stuff that you're actually getting, then you knuckle down and start, you know, getting yourself into work. It's different now because there's still a game. You know, and back in our days, it was like it was after a final or, you know, at the end of the season, and it certainly wasn't 7:30 at night. It was lunchtime, so they've had a long time to wait. But I'm sure there's some, you know, real proud families out there, proud moments, and you know, the next couple of weeks we'll hear a lot from a lot of those new, 5 new caps, which I'm looking forward to hearing from.